Hey there. As you might be able to see, I have a different backdrop behind me. I moved as recently as 6 days ago, which is why I didn't post a video last week. It was a little hectic. For those that might have been waiting for a new one, I appreciate your patience. Anyway, I figured as we're getting ready to wrap up the MLB regular season, I'd like to take a look at the few teams still battling for a playoff spot in the American and National Leagues. First, we will take a look at the American League and the three teams that are battling for the two wildcard spots. Those teams are the Oakland Athletics, the Tampa Bay Rays, and the Cleveland Indians. As it stands, with Cleveland the only team playing tonight out of those three, the Athletics are in the top spot. Tampa Bay is 2 games back of the Athletics in the second spot, with Cleveland a half a game behind Tampa Bay. With all three vying for a playoff berth and a 1-game playoff, it's hard for me to see Oakland losing their lead with a week and a half of games left. That team is a great offense with Matt Olson, Matt Chapman, and Marcus Semien, each with over 30 home runs, along with 4 more everyday players with 20 or more home runs. That's a lot of power coming out of Oakland. The Tampa Bay Rays are an interesting team this year. They had a hot start of the season, but once Blake Snell, Charlie Morton, and Tyler Glasnow got hurt, everyone wrote them off. But even with those key injuries, they continue to battle and stick around in the wildcard hunt. Now, they don't post the same offensive output as the Oakland does, but they're still winning games nonetheless. That leaves the Cleveland Indians, a team no stranger to injuries. With this year, they have been without the services of Francisco Lindor, Jose Ramirez, Corey Kluber, Carlos Carrasco, and Mike Clevinger. Lindor missed the first month of the season but returned strong. The same can be said for Clevinger and Carrasco, who left the game to deal with his newly diagnosed leukemia. But they still are without Ramirez and Kluber, who missed most of this year with a forearm fracture, and even with all of that, they're just a half a game out of the second wildcard spot. As easy as it may seem to call, I'm going to say the teams that will make the playoffs via the wildcard are the Oakland Athletics and the Tampa Bay Rays. As I previously stated, I don't see Oakland losing their lead, and the Rays have been playing too well to fall apart now. Not to mention their 3 stud pitchers who I mentioned being injured before are all healthy and ready to help their team push for the postseason. Cleveland has had a tough draw all year. Besides their injuries, they have been dealing with the Minnesota Twins, a team that no one saw coming with their offensive output this year, as well as the remaining schedule, which consists of just 1 more game against Detroit. Then they play the Phillies, a team who is still bidding for a playoff spot. Then on the road to play the White Sox, who they have struggled against this year, and finishing off the season on the road against the Nationals, another team trying to keep their lead in the wild card race and offensively stout to say the least. For those reasons, I don't see Cleveland making the playoffs this year. On to the National League, which showcases a very tight race for the wild card position as well as the Central Division. Looking at the Central Division, first you have the St. Louis Cardinals with a narrowing 3-game lead over both Chicago and Milwaukee. The Cardinals and the Cubs have a fun schedule to finish up with, as the two teams play each other 7 times in the final week and a half. Those 2 series consist of 4 games in Chicago and 3 games in St. Louis. It is important to note that excluding 1 game, the home team has won every matchup in this season series thus far. With that statistic, it should bode well for the Cubs, but the 3-game deficit should not. With those 2 butting heads, you still have the Brewers to watch out for. Even without the reigning MVP, Christian Yelich, they have managed to stay afloat in this playoff race and put themselves in prime position to not only make the playoffs via the wild card, but to even win the division. The Milwaukee Brewers, who are currently beating the Padres as we speak, have a remaining schedule of 3 home games against the Pirates, then 6 games on the road, 3 against the Reds and 3 against the Rockies. All 3 teams have a good offense to boast about, but none of them have pitching worth mentioning. This gives the Brewers a strong possibility to continue their winning ways against the not-so-stellar teams in the league right now to close out the regular season. And with the Cubs and the Cards beating each other up, they might just be able to sneak past both teams and win the division under each of their noses. That being said, I obviously believe that 2 teams will be making the playoffs out of the Central Division. I just don't believe the Cubs will be one of them. They have too much going against them right now, being down 3 games to the Cardinals and tied with the Brewers, who have a much easier schedule, along with the Brewers owning a home field advantage tiebreaker if they need to decide who makes it via 163rd game like they did last year. It's a big hill to climb. I also don't see anyone beating the Nationals out for the first wildcard spot. With that offense and starting rotation of Scherzer, Strasburg, and Corbin, they're incredibly tough to beat. Well, there you have it. Those are my picks. Regardless of who makes it, I think it'll be an entertaining finish. Until next time, I'm Kevin Householder.